Good evening, everybody, the people here and the people from home. As you were informed in last session, you have another project, okay, about the literature review. So, in the first of this session, we are going to tell you a little bit about the literature review and what does it mean, and what you can do to make a good literature review. And also the topics and some points about reviewing the papers, finding some articles online, and how you can attack the problem of finding the best resources for your research. Okay? So first of all, we are going to define the literature review, that it's a kind of summary. So you are going to review a lot of papers to find the best of them and then make a summary of them. But this is a simple version of the literature review. We have more complex literature reviews that they are published in the journals. But for you, it would be as easy as this to make a kind of summary of the researches that they are already published in the journals, and you can find them in some resources, some depositories of the scientific papers. So basically, you have to go and review some of the papers, and they gather the most important information, okay, that they presented in their papers, and make a summary of them. So it should be aligned with something, with some goals that you put for yourself at the first of your study. So when you want to start a kind of literature review, it's important to have some purposes, to have some goals, and then try to find some information about something that is important for you. So first of all, the thing that is important is that you have a research goal or some research goals, and then try to find some resources related to those goals. So the first thing that we can say for a literature review is finding a good topic. Something that you like it, you want to do your research about that, and it's important for you, maybe because of your job, maybe because of your research area, or your past experience. So these are the criteria that you find an area of science that is important for you, and you like to work on that area. So it is important to know what's happening in that area and what the researchers said before about that topic that is important for you. And because of that, we can say that the topic could be the first. And what is the topic? It's a collection of the keywords that define your research and define that what you are going to put in your paper as a literature review. So for this topic, you should have some keywords, right? And these keywords are very important because some of them should be scientific keywords, and some of them could be related to your interest or your job. If you're working on, for example, banking system, or you're working in one insurance company, for example, so the insurance or the bank can be a keyword, but it's a very, very general keyword, right? So you can find some specific keywords that define your area of research better, right? So you should have some keywords. With these keywords, you make a topic, okay? So the topic shows that what is your goal, what is the area that you are going to cover with this literature review. Okay, so it can define some research directions for you and for the readers that they are interested in your research. Okay, so this literature review can be only a very simple review of the papers, okay, with a summary of the very important points that the researcher mentions in their papers, but also it can have a kind of critical review of the main important things of the other researchers. So if you want to have a critical point of view, you have to have some criteria to judge the things that the researchers have done before, right? For this kind of research review that you want to judge something, it could be a kind of judgment about the things that the people have done before. But if you want to do it, it's clear that you have to have some kind of data, right? So you can summarize the things that you gather from the research before, from the papers, from the articles, and then transport them to somehow tabular data sets, okay? And then by that tabular data set, you can analyze it and show some relations that you gather from the researches, okay? So this is a way to do the job, okay? To do a literature review, but now we don't want you to do that. We want only to go and find some papers, okay, related to your topic, and then make a very simple summary, right? But for your next literature review, maybe when you get used to do it, it's a good idea to gather some papers, some articles, and make a data set from them. Some important points, you can put some, for example, the keywords that they use, the algorithms that they use, how many this algorithm is this in this area or for this specific problem, and then try to make a kind of analysis, use some algorithms to analyze them. You can use, for example, the structural equation modeling, okay, that's very, very, very famous in this area, and then try to analyze it somehow that be very useful for the other researchers, okay? So this kind of research and this kind of literature review is a literature review that usually the journals publish. Not a very simple literature review, but the simple literature reviews, as you are going to do it, summary one, is very appropriate for the conferences. So you can go to the conferences, you can present it, and this is a good idea to do it every, for example, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, because you can get familiar with the new research. So this is the use of the literature review, and this is a kind of comparison between the different kind of the literature review. And if we want to go a little bit to detail, we can say that we have the literature reviews that they focus on domains of the knowledge. There are some others that they want to see that what is the topics, the main topics in that area. Some of them like to know about the theories. If you want to know about theories or the research methods, you can go and see these papers. So there are some resources that you can go and review. I will put this file on the Moodle, so you can find more information about the different literature reviews and some examples. Okay, so different types of review papers. We have some different literature reviews based on the goals that you have. Okay, so if you want to summarize one part of the science, something that you like it, this is a kind of summarization of prior knowledge, right? So if you want to make some data set from the papers and then analyze them, you can say that this is a kind of data aggregation or integration. You have also explanation building. If you make a kind of explanation of the main parts of the researches that have done before and make a kind of graph, make a kind of mind map, right? To show that what is the goal there and what was the relation between the different parts of that area. So it can be a kind of explanation building, right? And if you have a critical assessment of extant literature, this is one famous and maybe the most important one in the literature of the reviews, okay? And in this case, you have to have some analysis, okay, on the papers or the articles that you gathered from the other researchers. So we have some characteristics for them, the theoretical review types, the scope of questions. So the scope of some of these types of literature reviews are narrow, like this and this, okay, and some of them are broad. So you have to gather a lot of information if you want to judge the papers and articles that they are already published. You have to gather a broad scope of the papers that they are published before. If you focus on some of them, it doesn't make sense because then the results that you gather from them would be only good for that part of the sample, not for all of the papers that they are in that area, right? So the strategy that you use is completely different. So here, for this one, you have to have a selective strategy. So for this, you should have what for selective strategy, some criteria, right? Okay, so these criteria that you have to define to make a kind of selection of the topics is very important, right? And you can choose the criteria based on what? Based on something that I told you before. First of all, the topic, right? And what was the source of the topic? The keywords, right? So you select some important keywords, okay, that they are exactly related to the area that you are going to study, and then based on that, you make a topic, and then you can define some criteria. You have some other characteristics for them, for example, the nature of primary source, and the explicit study selection, that if they have or no, and the quality, and the methods of analyzing and how you can analyze if it is based on the data or if it is a narrative summary. And what you should do, make a summary with the purpose of understanding of the status of your topic, okay? So you have a topic, right? Based on the topic, you should have a summary. And for this, we do a standalone review paper. And what is that? It's a literature review that can create a solid starting point for all of others, and especially for you that are interested in your selected topic, okay? It is a summarization of a prior knowledge. So the thing that we are going to do is making a summary. So if you want to continue for PhD, this can help you. If you want to do your thesis, this can help you. So it's a good start. Let's see an example. Here, for example, I'm a student, so I put my name and then say that, okay, what is the subject? The subject is imbalanced learning from mobile data, review of methods in retail credit risk. So the keywords that I use here are what? Can you tell me what are the keywords that I put in my title? And also the people from home, okay? Help me to show you the keywords here that I put in my title.
Imbalanced learning.
Imbalanced learning, exactly. What next? The credit risk or retail credit risk, also another keyword.
Mobile data.
Mobile data, exactly. So it's a kind of a special data. It's not the regular database. It's a new data, kind of data that we call it big data, okay? So it can be related, for example, to CDR, the call detailed records that the service providers of mobile, they have this kind of data. They gather it and save it for around, for example, 2 years based on the law, okay? and they can somehow distribute it with some partners, for example, banks, to analyze it for their purposes. Okay, so is there any other keywords there? No, there is only a word here, the review, that shows that this paper would be a literature review. So if you put a review or something like this in the title, when the people are looking for the literature review, they will find your paper. So this is important to have a word or a complete word, for example, literature review, as a part of the title to show that this paper is a literature review, right? Okay. So next we go to keywords. So we have some keywords here. The keywords that we mentioned in the title. But actually, this is not the title, this is the subject. If I want to make a title, maybe I choose different words that they are related to the keyword, but they are not exactly these keywords. Why? Can you tell me why I have to choose some other keywords, but maybe synonym to these keywords? Do you have any idea? No? So it can help me to make my research more visible. For the search engines, okay? So they can find my paper easily based on the words that I use in the title. And I have another option as a keyword that I put after my abstract. So these are the words that the search engines of the scientific works focus on these words, okay? So if somebody look for example, imbalanced learning, you can find it, but maybe it said that, for example, instead of the mobile data, the big data. So I can put the big data here as the keyword, and also I can mention the mobile data in my title. So both of them would be in my paper, and if someone is looking for paper and review paper about the big data, he can also find my paper. Okay, so after that, we have to define the topic and justify it. And for this, we start with this sentence that it is of extreme importance to review approaches of imbalanced learning from mobile data to note the huge practical perspective, such as credit scoring in the risk management systems. So first, we start with this importance of the study, okay? So it's important to make a kind of motivation for the reader, right? Why your topic is important, why the people should read your literature review. When I want to say that why this topic is important, I start with some keywords, the imbalanced learning, from what? From the mobile data, which is a kind of new data, and we want to see the application of this kind of data in credit scoring as an important thing in the market of finance. And then we start with cell phones. So actually, we are connecting this part of the retail credit risk to mobile data. So the next sentence declares something about cell phones and its relation with the topic that is important. So we have something that is important, we have some kind of data, and these data are coming from cell phones. So everybody has cell phones in this pocket, and they can understand that it's very important to use the data that they have. And this is a kind of available data nowadays. We can use it for some purposes. What is that? It's credit scoring. So you clarify the whole idea in 1, 2, or 3 first sentences of your abstract. Okay, so the next sentence is starting from here. They can be used to monitor different kind of risks. However, these risks situations are relatively infrequent events. So these three situations that are relatively infrequent events are related to what? Imbalanced learning. So now we are defining the imbalanced learning and what is the relation between the imbalanced learning and the written credit risk and the mobile data that we have it as a new source of data, okay? And the other discussion about the imbalanced data, okay, so they are extremely sparse situations, and we can say that this is a critical review. And we have a model that is going to evaluate the papers that they are already published in this area. All right, so you have all of these parts that they are all related. So you have the coherence and cohesion in this text. So everything is related, everything is connected. So you don't have some separate topics that you say, this is important, that is also important, and this is important. I found some papers that they said that that topic is also important, so the people will be lost in the middle of your paper. That, okay, there are a lot of important things, and also the other things that we don't mention are really important, because the important things in the word, okay, is infinite, right? It's not something that we can say these two topics that I'm interested in are important, and what about the others? The other topics are also important. So we have to focus on something, on 1, 2, or maximum 3 keywords. And then try to discuss those keywords, try to make a story that how they are related to each other. So storytelling here is very important. That you start from one point, you finish to some endpoint, and then between you have a story that the people can follow your story and then get to some results. So for this, we have to define the motivation, and we have to define why the topic is important. And then the definition, we have to have some keywords and then define those keywords. The definition of the keywords is very important because we have some keywords that they are repeated in different areas of science. And if you are coming from one side of the science and you are talking about the other side, maybe the definition of you is different with the definition of the people. And finally, they can understand that what are you going to discuss for them. Because in their scope of the knowledge, they will understand something, but you are talking actually about something else, right? So the definition is very important, that you define, if I'm using this word from the imbalanced learning, I mean this. From the big data, I mean this, okay? The mobile data here is this. Something is, sometimes is very clear, and you say that, okay, everybody knows it. But actually, it's not the case in the scientific papers, because if something is very clear, it's very clear for you. It's very clear for the specialists in that area. And maybe I, as someone who is interested in this topic, but I have no knowledge about this topic, okay, want to read your paper. And I have to know that what is the definition of the keyword that you use in the topic or in your paper. And for this reason, we don't use the abbreviations. And if we want to use the abbreviations, first of all, we define them. Okay, so the next one would be the contributions. And mostly the 3 novel contributions or objectives of your review paper could be enough. So for the objectives and the aims of your review paper, you can define 3 novel approach and 3 good objectives for your review paper. And then we set the boundary and justify the boundary. So we have the material that we need. We have the topic, we have the keywords, we know the definition of our problem, and we know why our problem is important. And then we can set some criteria to select some of the papers and put away the others. So this is important to select some of them, because when you go to the search engines and try to find the papers related to your topic, you will find a bunch of them. Many papers, 1,000 papers about your topic, and all of them are interesting and very good reading. And how we can choose some of them based on some criteria or boundaries. So the scope of your research is very important. You have to make a scope for your research, and based on the scope, you select some of them and put away the others. So you have to have a kind of search strategy, right? The next one is selection strategy, and then the current theories. So something that is good to do is going to find the theories that the people use and then make a summary of those theories. And add some examples and draw implications of practice, okay? So this is important to have some examples. And define that why this is important in real world, okay? So what is the implication of that theories in the real world and how they could solve the problems? And maybe make some priority for some of them compared with the others. And then identifying the gaps is something that maybe you can do it, maybe not. And if you couldn't do it, don't worry, it's not for your research now. Identifying the gap, but it's always a good idea to try to do it in the future, because if you are going to do something new, if you are going to extend some theories in your area, always you have to know what is the gaps in that area of the research. So it's important to know the gaps. We should identify them. It's good for your PhD maybe in the future, but some papers, they already mention some of these gaps in their results. So when you go through the papers that you select and then go to the results and the conclusion of the paper, and there you can find that some researchers already mentioned some gaps as a result of their research. And you can summarize them. So it's not necessary to do it by yourself. Maybe the scope of the knowledge that you already have is not enough to make a good literature review and find the gaps, but you can find it from the other professionals in your area, the people that they are working in that area for 20 years, for 30 years, and they have the mastery on that area, okay? So they identified some gaps and they said that, okay, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, these are the gaps, these are the important topics that the people should work on. And it makes sense to go and study this part of the science. And based on that, you can identify some gaps and mention in your paper. Okay, so we create some graphs, diagrams, tables, and mind maps, and it can help the reader of your research to know what is the whole idea, okay, that you found based on your literature review. So is it always as simple as this? Actually, no. We stop from here. But we can gather the data, can analyze those kind of data and make some interpretations. So these are the works that we can do in the future, but by now, because of the time limit, because of the deadline that we have for our research, okay, it's not necessary for you to do all of these steps, but if you gather the different kind of papers based on your search and then make kind of summary, that's it, right?